Major ruling involving the Second Amendment.
Major Supreme Court ruling.
It's a case that legal experts will be watching closely when it likely heads before the justices.
The Supreme Court has just issued a major ruling.
The unprecedented legal earthquake. While most Americans were focused on the usual political headlines, courtroom drama, and culture wars, a quiet but powerful event unfolded inside the marble halls of the Supreme Court. In a truly rare moment of total agreement, the justices issued a 9-0 unanimous decision that fundamentally changes the legal landscape. This ruling wasn't about a minor technicality or a minor regulation. It strikes at the heart of personal freedom. This ruling doesn't shout about the Second Amendment, but if you carry or own a firearm or simply care about the limits of government force, this decision changes everything. It redefined how the Fourth Amendment protects you from excessive force and unconstitutional seizures. The case, Barnes versus Felix, centered on a police shooting. But the court's opinion reached far beyond one tragedy. The rules of engagement have shifted, and they now decidedly lean toward accountability. This is the clear truth that cuts through the legal fog. The ruling demands a new standard, a deeper one that considers the full context of an incident, not just the split second when a weapon is drawn. The tragic story of Barnes versus Felix. At the center of this monumental case is a tragic and fast-moving confrontation. The encounter began as a routine traffic stop conducted by Officer Robert Felix Jr. on a man named Ashton Barnes, who was suspected of minor toll violations. Things escalated quickly. The officer asked Barnes to exit the vehicle. Barnes opened the door and initially complied, but then, in a sudden move, attempted to drive away. Officer Felix, acting instinctively, jumped onto the vehicle's door ledge. Within a terrifying 2 seconds, he fired 2 shots into the car, fatally wounding Barnes. The entire event, from vehicle movement to the fatal shot, lasted only around 5 seconds. In the aftermath, Barnes's mother sued Officer Felix, arguing her son's Fourth Amendment rights had been violated by the use of excessive force. The central question was this: did Officer Felix act lawfully in that instant of perceived threat? And more importantly, what legal standards should courts use to decide that? Dismantling the moment of threat loophole. Prior to this ruling, many circuits, most prominently the Fifth Circuit, applied a flawed analysis known as the moment of threat rule. This rule effectively put blinders on the justice system. Courts would only evaluate the officer's actions at the exact moment of force, ignoring everything that led up to it. The problem: under this narrow standard, if the officer felt threatened in that final split second, the shooting was declared justified. This is what happened here. The lower court sided with Officer Felix, saying the 2 seconds where he clung to the car justified deadly force. The flaw: this tunnel vision approach ignored crucial context. What led to the officer stepping onto the car? Could the situation have been de-escalated earlier? Those questions were completely off limits. The Supreme Court found this narrow focus deeply troubling. The standard failed to account for situations where an officer's own reckless or poor decision-making created the imminent threat they then reacted to. It provided officers with an almost ironclad defense, essentially insulating them from accountability for actions taken seconds before using lethal force. The new precedent: context is constitutionally required. The Supreme Court dismantled this narrow way of thinking, issuing a complete rejection of the moment of threat doctrine. The unanimous mandate, writing for the 9-0 court, Justice Elena Kagan mandated that excessive force cases under the Fourth Amendment must be evaluated based on the totality of circumstances. No time limit. The court emphasized that the totality of the circumstances inquiry has no time limit. The entire interaction is now relevant. Objective reasonableness. Officers' decisions leading up to the use of force matter, and courts must weigh whether the force used was objectively reasonable from the perspective of a reasonable officer at the scene. Earlier facts may show why an officer would view ambiguous conduct as threatening or as harmless. This sets a new comprehensive precedent for how excessive force is evaluated. The new legal framework: symmetry and fairness. By establishing the totality of circumstances, the Supreme Court created a clearer, more balanced framework for evaluating police use of force. Legal symmetry. This ruling restores a crucial balance by ensuring that both sides of the story, what the officer saw and what actually happened, must be weighed together. Accountability and escalation. Officers can no longer claim justification based solely on perceived threat if that threat was shaped by earlier decisions they made. Prior interactions, behavior patterns, verbal cues, and escalation attempts all become legally relevant evidence. Litigation impact. This changes everything in how wrongful shootings and lawful gun owner encounters will be litigated. It's a standard rooted in fairness, and it restores constitutional depth to how the Fourth Amendment is applied in modern law enforcement scenarios. Why this is a shield for lawful gun owners. 2A meets 4A. What does this ruling have to do with the Second Amendment? Everything. The Fourth Amendment and Second Amendment are now more deeply intertwined than ever before. The gun owner's reality. If you're a gun owner, you are statistically more likely to encounter law enforcement than most other citizens. Whether it's a traffic stop where you inform the officer you're carrying legally, or a home visit based on a red flag law, or a mistaken identity, the stakes are high. Protection against misinterpretation. In these situations, force can escalate quickly. Before, courts mostly ignored what led up to the force, focusing only on the final second. This ruling allows courts to look at the full context, including whether the officer misunderstood a legal action, such as reaching for a wallet where a weapon is holstered, as threatening. The constitutional link. The Second Amendment protects your right to carry, and the Fourth Amendment protects your right not to be wrongfully searched, seized, or harmed because you are carrying legally. Your right to bear arms is only truly secure if courts also recognize that you shouldn't be punished for exercising it. This ruling means that lawful gun ownership can no longer be used as justification for lethal force unless the full context warrants it. Legal repercussions and future accountability. This wasn't just a slap on the wrist for the Fifth Circuit. It was a direct challenge to how multiple federal circuits have been handling excessive force cases for decades. Now all courts are on notice. The Miranda comparison. Already legal scholars are calling Barnes versus Felix the Miranda ruling for use of force cases, a decision that fundamentally changes how the Constitution protects you during encounters with the state. Impact on qualified immunity. While this ruling doesn't eliminate the concept of qualified immunity, which shields officers from liability, it makes it significantly harder to argue that the officer's actions were objectively reasonable when the full timeline reveals reckless escalation. The court is demanding a deeper look into the facts, which is exactly what victims' lawyers need to overcome the immunity defense. Training overhaul. Police training will need to adapt. Officers must now account for how their actions before a shooting may be judged in court. The emphasis will shift further toward mandatory de-escalation protocols and assessing threat cues without jumping to the most extreme measure. New legal life. Lawyers representing victims of police overreach now have a Supreme Court-approved argument. Context is constitutionally required, giving new legal life to cases once deemed unwinnable. The ruling is reshaping federal jurisprudence across all 50 states. Your experience matters. Join the conversation. This ruling may not be trending on cable news, but it should be. Because whether you're a gun owner, a rights advocate, or someone who just wants a fair justice system, Barnes versus Felix changes the landscape. The message from the Supreme Court is clear. Constitutional rights require context, not convenience. Have you personally experienced a high-stress traffic stop or police interaction where the context felt completely ignored by the authorities? If you've ever wondered whether a court would truly examine all the facts in a controversial shooting, now there's hope. If you feared being misunderstood during a tense moment while carrying legally, now there's a precedent that protects you. Drop a comment below and share your perspective. Let us know how this change impacts your confidence in carrying legally or your views on police accountability. Don't miss the next update. This ruling is just the beginning. We're going to be tracking every lower court decision that interprets and applies this new standard. Don't miss out on vital updates that directly affect your freedom. Hit the like button right now and share this video with your community. People need to know this ruling exists. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Subscribe to Firearms Law Advisor for more real, accurate updates on the legal battles that affect your rights. Stay sharp, stay legal, and stay free. We'll see you in the next one.